Hello and welcome to episode 107 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for joining me on twitch.tv/GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GNITTWITT, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all that stuff. I've not been using a lot of Twitter. I really try not to because it seems like a terrible place, and it is a terrible place, but what are you going to do? Thank you for joining me on this week's episode. I am excited about this time of the year. I know a lot of people are excited for, Summer Game Fest and what used to be E3 and all the stuff that happens in June. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't exciting, but like come the middle of August, it is Thursday, August 15th at the time of this recording. Come the middle of August, you start to get a really good idea of where the rubber meets the road when it comes to a lot of these games. Going to move my mic, excuse me. You start to really see where the rubber meets the road with a lot of these games. And what I mean by that is going through the news, I was doing a lot of kind of comparisons of games that are newly announced with games that games newly announced that have a release date of 2024. Games that had been announced with a 2024 release date now getting a firm release date, and games that had been announced for a 2024 release date being delayed into next year. Something that we talked about last week with Avowed. So you're starting to really get an idea of where the rubber is meeting the road when it comes to where these games are at. And we are going to cover a lot of that stuff. So, for example, Dragon Age the Veilguard got a release date. Way Forward and Boss Team Games announced Halloween and Ash vs. the Evil Dead games. Those are coming out this year. Until Dawn remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, is getting its release date confirmed. Plucky Squire, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, like a bunch of stuff is like it's either getting delayed or it's getting confirmed because there's not a lot of time for a marketing kind of push for a lot of these games if they were to stick around through this year. But I think the biggest news story is one that I think caught a lot of people by surprise. I think from the outside looking in, it definitely seems like a positive news story. It seems like good news all around. And that's that Hi-Fi Rush, the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush, Tango Gameworks, has been acquired by Krafton and will remain open. The acquisition also includes the rights to Hi-Fi Rush. Now, for context, Tango Gameworks was part of Bethesda, which then became a part of Microsoft when Microsoft purchased Bethesda. Tango Gameworks would go on to release such games as The Evil Within 1 and 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Ghostwire Tokyo. The last game that they had put out under Microsoft was Hi-Fi Rush. It was probably their most critically acclaimed game. Maybe not their best-selling game, but their most critically acclaimed game. It was the game that kind of put Tango Gameworks on the map to some extent, with people saying, oh, wow, there's actually really something here. Like, especially if they get outside of the horror genre, they come up with really cool shit, right? Microsoft goes on and shuts them down and announces that a lot of those people, if not all of them, would be laid off, right? This was also part of the announcement when Microsoft said in April that they were going to shut down Arcane Austin, the people that make Redfall, Mighty Doom developer Alpha Dog, and support studio Roundhouse Games. Now, Krafton, we talked about really briefly last week and have touched on here and there. They also own the PlayerUnknown's Battleground Studios, Striking Distance, also made the Callisto Protocol. So is a South Korean publisher, and they are really in the business of Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, which if you've never played Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, one of the more popular battle royale shooters out there. I've played I've played a little bit of Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. I actually really enjoyed it at the time, especially during early access. Since the game has come out to full release and I think has moved on to even free to play, I have not kept up with it. But while I think the situation with the Callisto Protocol and striking distance was not good, perhaps there's a scenario where Krafton has learned its lesson in terms of rushing games out the door and properly supporting your studios that are working on games to allow them to get into a situation where, you know, Tango Gameworks can thrive in this new environment. They put out a statement saying, Krafton Incorporated today welcomed the talented people of Tango Gameworks to their team, marking an exciting moment in the company's global expansion and its first significant investment in the Japanese video game market. This strategic move will include the rights to Tango Gameworks' acclaimed IP, Hi-Fi Rush. Didn't necessarily say if the Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo are making the jump as well. However, I think we can all agree that Hi-Fi Rush, the biggest thing that Tango Gameworks put out. So if you're going to strike while the iron is hot in terms of incorporating, you know, their franchises and IP, that's probably the one to do it, right? Krafton says the move will have no impact on the studio's previous games, which will all still be available on their existing platforms. Though the other thing to note is that, you know, Hi-Fi Rush was part of Microsoft's initiative to get more games onto consoles that were not Xbox. So you saw Sea of Thieves, you saw Grounded, you saw Pentiment, and you saw Hi-Fi Rush making its way to platforms such as PlayStation. However, not all of those games made it to Nintendo Switch, or what could eventually be the Nintendo Switch 2. So I would not be surprised if one of the first things that Tango Gameworks gets out the door is a Nintendo version of Hi-Fi Rush. So good news overall, a positive news story to kick off this episode. And I wish everyone at Tango Gameworks the best of luck. I hope that Krafton takes care of them, and I hope that they get to make fantastic games. And I would not be surprised if more Hi-Fi Rush was something that we can expect from them in the future. We were just talking about Summer Game Fest and how, you know, June is where a lot of the hot announcements are. But one of the biggest, trade shows of the year, Gamescom, is right around the corner. Gamescom opening night live, hosted by everyone's favorite Canadian, Jeff Keighley. And we got some kind of news and expectations around what's going on. So Gamescom opening night live is going to take place August 20th. That's going to be happening at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for those looking to watch it. And Jeff Keighley's kind of been out there talking that shit as the Keighley's known to do, setting some expectations. Some of the previously announced games set to be featured include Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Monster Hunter Wilds, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Sid Meier's Civilization 7, Marvel Rivals, and Dune Awakening. He also said, yes, there will be new game announcements in a follow-up post. I believe this was on Twitter where he said that. THQ Nordic has already confirmed plans to reveal a new game from the Little Nightmares developer Tracer Studios during opening night live. Keighley previously said that the show will include the first look at gameplay from Dontnod's Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and a trailer for War Horse Studios' Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been delayed. We will cover that later on in the show, but I just want to say some of the stuff, has been delayed. This is probably where we get, not to like wildly speculate. I was looking at, kind of game releases for the rest of this year, especially with some stuff getting confirmed. One game that has not had a confirmed release date is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I suspect that this is the last big show that they could have for that game, where they would also confirm the release date. So I would not be surprised if, this time next week, we now know, or we will know, when Indiana Jones is coming out. Let's talk about Bungie for a moment. Let's talk about the morale at Bungie. And more specifically, let's talk about the future of Bungie. Their present is incredibly murky, and their future has never looked more bleak, in my opinion. And one of the aspects of their future that is kind of concerning at the moment is the sentiment around Marathon, their next game. Now, is it their next big game? It's hard to say. Marathon, if you don't know, a long-running first-person shooter franchise by Bungie, like pre-Halo days, that is being revived as a multiplayer extraction shooter. They had that stylish trailer announcement, almost a year ago, I want to say. I could be wrong. It might have been earlier this year. Life is a blur. I apologize. But the mood at Bungie regarding its upcoming game Marathon is reportedly not great. Jason Schreier is a journalist over at Bloomberg. He is, kind of their games journalist. I think Jason Schreier, just to get this out of the way, I think Jason Schreier does incredible work. I think he is the man. He has a podcast called Skills Up Friends Per Second. He's been talking about kind of a temperature check at Bungie relating to Marathon. Jason Schreier said, "Not great from what I've heard. There's a reason that it was planned for this year and slipped a whole year, and people that I've talked to are a little pessimistic about it even hitting its current planned deadline, but we'll see. I don't know exactly when that is, sometime in 2025, I'm not sure." He said, "The sentiment I've heard is not great around it, at least for a few months ago." At least of a few months ago. Jason Schreier also pointed out that the game received a leadership shakeup earlier this year when game director Christopher Barrett and executive producer Carrie Goosekos left the project. Giving his opinion on the likely reception to the game when it's released, Schreier said he didn't feel the Bungie fan base would be enthusiastic about a PvP multiplayer extraction shooter, and that he was concerned its continued development may lead to a similar issue to that of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. Quote, "Suicide Squad started development in 2017 when live service was the hot new thing. And because of sunk cost fallacy and endless delays, and because there wasn't really any interest or willingness to cancel it because they had committed so much money to it, hence a sunk cost fallacy. And there was just a belief that we want to get this out. It's going to be cool. It came out and it just totally flopped." He goes on to say, "I'm worried about Marathon and being in a similar situation where it's been in development for a while. It started development when extraction shooters were super hot. I don't know if that's the case anymore. And now, because they've committed so much money, and because it was the project that was the furthest along as opposed to all their other incubation bets, they're really putting a lot into it, and I'm not sure there's much of a chance that it'll be successful." But then again, if you had asked me in January, I would have been like, yeah, Helldivers 2, that game is going to tank so freaking hard. It just looks like a disaster. And of course, it turned out to be the biggest thing ever. So that's why I like to report, and not so much of that is prognostications. Okay, so I'm not here to pick on what Jason Schreier thinks or anything like that necessarily. I think he's onto something. When did the first Destiny come out? The first Destiny came out in 2014. It was kind of followed up by games such as The Division 2, The Division, and other live service games like that. If you think about the fact that Suicide Squad started development 3 years after Destiny 2 went on to be a big game, to some extent, you can see a scenario where people kind of overshot the popularity of a new market that they were trying to penetrate. And then that's what happened with Suicide Squad. I think the problem that Bungie has right now when it comes to Marathon is that the extraction shooter market is even more niche than the generic live service shooter market, or the live service game market, excuse me. A lot of the live service games are shooters, and that's fine, but First Descendant and Warframe and The Division and all this stuff. But the extraction shooter market is even more niche than live service. And I think one of the reasons why it's so much more niche is because in a live service game like The First Descendant, you can get some single player story stuff out of it. You can play a lot of that game by yourself or ignore a lot of the multiplayer aspect if you want. But you might be thinking, GnittWitt, you're full of shit. The extraction shooter market is hot. If it was hot, Call of Duty wouldn't have killed off its DMZ spin-off mode that was also an extraction shooter, right? We've actually started to see some extraction shooter games shrivel and dry up, which means I don't think there's much hope for Marathon. The other thing I would say is, going back to what Jason Schreier said, didn't feel the Bungie fan base would be enthusiastic about a PvP extraction shooter. When I come to a Bungie shooter, I want a lot of single player content. I want a lot of story content. And when I want multiplayer shooter, when I want a competitive PvP player versus player shooter, I don't need it to be extraction. I just want like deathmatch mode and like domination and like those sorts of. I do enjoy some of the modes in Destiny 2, don't get me wrong. But at no point am I like, yes, I want a whole aspect of this multiplayer match to be me running away and leaving the battlefield and hoping we escape with whatever stuff we came in and stole. I just don't care. And if I did, I would go play Payday 2 or 3 or whatever. I just don't need it. So I think Jason Schreier's onto something about the perception of the Bungie fan base and turning something like Marathon, which in fairness, Marathon is so old, it is older than dirt, that the people that are still around that know what Marathon is are going to probably have to figure out how to get high-speed internet in the old folks' home so they can play their video games because they're that old. The point is that you could do anything with Marathon, and they've chosen the most boring option so far. And listen, I mean, Sony's already canceled other live service games. There's every possibility that they turn around and cancel Marathon. My only thing is that if Sony PlayStation cancels Marathon, this could be a scenario where we don't see anything else from Bungie going forward. That they get completely absorbed into PlayStation. Everyone gets scattered to various teams within Sony, because I don't know what you would be doing with Bungie if not that. But you're also not doing any more Destiny, so it's a fucking mess. So I can only imagine what the sentiment is for people that are trying to work on a game that potentially seems doomed. We got some release dates. When we take a break, I'm going to come back to a lot of this topic for a moment, because I want to look at what games we can expect for the rest of this year. Excuse me. But one game we can expect on Halloween of all things, Dragon Age: The Veilguard has a confirmed release date, October 31st. They also posted a new trailer. It's like an announced trailer. It's like 3-minute thing. It mostly shows, from the looks of it, like story cutscenes. It's a lot of that stuff. I don't see any like rock solid gameplay or anything showing off here. It's all just cinematic. We're fighting Dungeons and Dragons and not Dungeons and Dragons, Dragon Age, excuse me. Anyways, Dragon Age: The Veilguard coming out October 31st on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. I will be playing that. I'm very excited about that game, and I try to manage my expectations to some extent, but I'm looking forward to it. So, Dragon Age Veilguard, finally confirmed release date October 31st of this year. But speaking of Halloween, you see that segue? How smooth was that? Well, I guess segues aren't very smooth if you have to point them out. Point is, WayForward and Boss Team Games have announced Halloween and Ash versus the Evil Dead. Now, these games are two separate games that you could purchase together in a bundle if you would like. And they are referred to as 16-bit style platformers. They are 2D side-scrolling action platformer games. Both games being made by the same people. Both games have the same look. They are very, very similar in look and art style. It's just that, you know, one game you play as Michael Myers, the other you play as Ash. Now, they have kind of put out some things about the games in terms of what you can expect. Each game is going to be $25 digitally or can be purchased physically as a 2-in-1 release for $50. Boss Team Games says that if players buy both games, it will give them access to new features, enabling them to play as Michael Myers or Ash in each other's games. Boss Team says, everyone at Boss Team Games are huge fans of horror, and getting to work with these legendary properties is a dream come true. It has been an amazing experience collaborating with WayForward and our licensors to create not one but two fast-paced 90s arcade-style games while remaining true to the original Halloween film and Ash vs. the Evil Dead. They put out some screenshots. And it's hard to see, like, in context, like they're just screenshots. I don't know. But when they talk about remaining true to the films, I am seeing a screenshot of Michael Myers fighting what looks like, oh, you know what? You know what I'm just realizing is these are probably like screenshots from the different games mixed and matched. So it's hard to get an idea of, like, is this Michael Myers in his game or Michael Myers in the Ash vs. the Evil Dead game? But I'm seeing Michael Myers fight monsters, and I don't remember there being monsters in Halloween. Regardless, I hope this is good. I think $25 from what they've initially shown seems a little steep. I hope that they have a bundle for those looking to get it digitally, but I guess because they're not going to give you a discount for buying both games, it doesn't matter. Hopefully, if you get both games and you want to be able to mix and match the characters into the games, that you can still do that without having to get the physical edition. I'm looking forward to it. I hope those are good games. That would be a lot of fun. I don't know if they announced a release date for it. Let me see. There's an Amazon listing in the States. That's October 18th. From the looks of it, October 18th for Halloween and Ash versus the Evil Dead. But wait, there's more. On Monday, it was announced that Boss Team Games, which was most recently responsible for Evil Dead, the game, that's the multiplayer game, is working on 2 video games based on the 1978 movie Halloween. It was also announced that one of the games would be developed in Unreal Engine 5 and would have input from the original movie's director, John Carpenter, which, if you don't remember, John Carpenter also had that Toxic Commando game, that like zombie first-person shooter that was announced last year at Summer Game Fest. Though we don't know much more than that, at least not right now. But hey, you're going to get an Unreal Engine 5 game. So Unreal Engine 5 is, you know, one of the big AAA engines out there. So there's a possibility that we're going to get a much more graphically intensive, much more, photorealistic style Unreal Engine Halloween game. So we have the 16-bit kind of retro, action game. And with Unreal Engine 5, you might get something a little more realistic. We shall see. My only thing is that when you look at these games, the Ash vs. the Evil Dead and the Halloween games, they both look incredibly similar to the point where they're just mixing and matching the characters into the different games. So what I suspect is that Halloween is going to be a game where you primarily use melee combat, knives and whatever to fight enemies. And Ash vs. the Evil Dead is probably a game where you primarily use shotguns and ranged weapons to fight enemies. And if you want to do it the other way, you totally can. But I'm not trying to shit on them. Like, I don't know much else about that. But I am excited to play it nonetheless. Some announcements of new games. 2 Point Museum has been announced. This is the third game in the 2 Point series. If you don't know 2 Point, 2 Point is the, how would you describe it? It is the, kind of spiritual successor to Theme Hospital. So Mark Webley and Gary Carr are these two legendary developers who back in the day put out a game called Theme Hospital. Theme Hospital was a goofy hospital management simulator. They then came back and made 2 Point Hospital, which is a goofy hospital management simulator. They then would go on to make 2 Point Campus, and the new game in that series is 2 Point Museum. Now, I got to admit that I have played both 2 Point Hospital and 2 Point Campus, and I think those games are pretty fun. They're pretty light in terms of, how you're supposed to, build your hospital and run your college and all that stuff. They're pretty goofy. That being said, like, I think with the goofiness, they don't necessarily skimp on the simulation part. So there is some in-depth that you can do in terms of customizing the size of, your inpatient, outpatient rooms, your theaters for your colleges and all that stuff. But it's a pretty similar formula in terms of what you do in 2 Point Hospital isn't much different than what you do in 2 Point Campus. It's just that it's in a different context. So it doesn't surprise me to see them do a museum. And I am very excited about this. I think this is awesome. No release date, but PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S is where you're going to be able to play that game. I wouldn't be surprised if down the road this leads them to doing other, other games in the series, maybe a 2 Point theme park, or something like that. But for now, it's a museum. You kind of see like, the goofy like exhibits coming to life, kind of Night at the Museum type stuff, which is also very fun. But it looks good, looks cute, cheeky, as those games want to be. The producer of Assassin's Creed, Shadows, has been talking about the development length of their games, saying that 4 years is the right balance to make a new entry, and that Assassin's Creed Shadows has had the longest development cycle of any game in the series so far. I'm guessing that that's about 25% longer than that of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The lead producer of Assassin's Creed Shadows did an interview with GameIndustry.biz and explains that Shadows will have been in development for 4 years by the time it's released in November. 4 years is an ideal development cycle because it gives the team enough time to get feedback on what it's created and use that feedback to deliver meaningful iterations without rushing things. It's always a balance between time and cost, but the more time you have, the more you can iterate. Yes, you can put more people on a project and do it in a shorter time, but that doesn't give you time to iterate because it takes time to get the feedback from players, your team, and then see what works and what doesn't and how to improve it. 4 years, I think, is the right balance to go from conception to production and get the feedback necessary to adapt, which I think is interesting. Now, there's a lot of controversy around Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm going to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because I think it's fucking stupid. but we're going to talk about it anyways. This game's coming out November 15th of this year. So set for release in November 15th, 2024, Assassin's Creed Shadows takes place in the 16th century Japan. The game has been subject of some criticism on social media, amplified by the likes of Elon Musk, who wrote about its supposed injection of DEI. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, because one of its protagonists, Yosuke, is black. People criticizing the idea that Yosuke, being a black playable protagonist, is somehow forcing diversity, equity, and inclusion into the game, and that it's unnatural for this game to feature such a character. This reception led to Ubisoft posting a statement on social media acknowledging the online discourse around Yosuke and other elements of the game. In the statement, Ubisoft stressed that Assassin's Creed franchise has always strived to be inspired by history rather than faithfully depicting it. Our intention has never been to present any of our Assassin's Creed games, including Assassin's Creed Shadows, as factual representations of history or historical characters. Instead, we aim to spark curiosity and encourage players to explore and learn more about the historical setting we get inspired by. Which is not, I mean, yes and no. I feel like it's them really trying to like not discredit the racists like Elon Musk too much, because Leonardo da Vinci is your in Assassin's Creed 2, Leonardo da Vinci is your Q. So while Leonardo da Vinci's out there making all his classic Renaissance artwork, he's also the guy helping you get better knives and weapons and shit, which obviously did not happen. At least I don't think it happened. But with that said, Yosuke is a real person and a real black man who existed in the time period that Assassin's Creed Shadows is taking place in. So I think they've had a real uphill battle with racist pieces of shit on the internet, which is unfortunate. But I really don't think that, like, if they had any more time with the game, if they had done things any differently, like, people are not afraid to be racist anymore, right? They're not afraid to keep that shit to themselves. And when you have somebody like Elon Musk out there amplifying this bullshit, which is why I may not be on Twitter as much as I used to, you have to have a multi-billion-dollar company go out there and like kind of backpedal on its own franchise a little bit just to appease the fucking Nazis in the room, which is sad. It's incredibly sad because this is not the first Assassin's Creed game. And in fact, it's not even the first Assassin's Creed game where he plays a black person. So it's so gross. I know this was originally a story about them developing the game over 4 years, but I think there's a lot more to it. And potentially, if the cycle gets longer, it's going to be longer amounts of time where the team has to put up with bullshit by reactionary people on the internet. And I don't know if that's going to work well for the franchise going forward. Maybe it'll be maybe the next Assassin's Creed game, it's all just white European men. That's it. Just God-fearing white European men, because that's the only people who ever existed throughout all of history. People tell me to keep the politics out, but it's hard when so many people's political opinions are fucking stupid. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to chill out, and we'll be right back. We ain't going anywhere. Welcome back to the podcast. I continue to be GnittWitt. The news doesn't end. The Fallout London developers are planning to launch an indie studio. This is based off the success of the mod, the Fallout London mod, the fan-made mod, that became the fastest redeemed game of all time on Good Old Games. Good Old Games, if you don't know, is a storefront where you can buy games, PC games, digital PC games, and mods and all that stuff. Fallout London, if you don't know, is a mod It's basically the size of a whole new game that is based off Fallout 4, which is out now and it's free and you can check it out. I still haven't had a chance to check it out. It's also due to the fact that you need to have the you have to have the Fallout 4 patch that happened before the updated patch that fucked up a lot of shit, and I just didn't change that when I updated it. And anyways, in an interview with the BBC, Team Fallen's Dean Carter said the group plans to release stability updates for the recently released Fallout 4 Game of the Year Edition mod, as well as additional content as part of a larger patch, possibly due later this year. Beyond that, Team Fallen wants to make the transition from a group of volunteer mod creators to a proper indie studio. Fallout London will continue until we basically have all the content which we had to cut for release, so we have another ending which is called the wildcard ending. Basically, that'll come out in one of the future patches, Carter said. We're aiming for some small ones for like stability and things like that, but ultimately there will be larger patch that basically puts in everything that we didn't get in on the original release, and then that'll sort of be when we sort of close up shop for Fallout London. That's not going to happen soon, he continued. We can see ourselves doing that towards until at least the end of the year, but there will obviously be a point where we're like, this is now done, because again, as much as I love the fact that this is a free project, we can offer free for all our community. Free doesn't pay our bills. What has been great for us is that a lot of people who have really enjoyed it have donated to us, and what we are doing with that is we are channeling that into Team Fallen. Fallen? F-O-L-O-N. Jimmy Fallen. That's not true. That's not anything. Which is obviously what we're doing, what we're going to be moving into. And when we should hopefully launch our indie games company, which will allow us to be able to come up with our own ideas, create our own games, and just really work with the community without having to even speak to anyone above us, such as Bethesda, anything like that. Now, one of the things to note is that, like, this is not an official Fallout thing, right? This is not an official Fallout thing. Because this uses the works of the original Fallout 4 game. So it's a scenario where, like, Bethesda can't quite, like, they can kill it. They could have killed it. They didn't. But they also can't promote it because it's not an official thing, right? So it's this interesting, like, that's why, like, it's crazy that Fallout London is such an ambitious mod on top of everything else. But it's also so fascinating to see them, like, try to get out from under that kind of, team that they have formed into something that better resembles a proper indie studio. I think it's an exciting idea. I still haven't checked out Fallout London. Maybe I will one day. But until then, I wish everybody involved the best of luck. Every now and then we get these updates from Remedy about the state of their games. Max Payne 1 and 2, the remake, is in full production, and Control 2 is now in a playable state. Keep in mind that Remedy has 3 projects currently in development. So here's what we got. According to the developer, Control 2 has progressed to the production readiness stage. The game is now playable as the team reaches an important milestone in the game's development. The development team is working towards scaling up the project, up the production of the project. Max Payne 1 and 2 remake, which Remedy is working on as a co-production with Rockstar Games, has progressed from production readiness to the full production stage. According to Remedy, the team is currently working towards a version of the game that is playable from beginning to end. Remedy has also provided an update on its project codenamed Condor. The development team has worked on multiple maps and different mission types, and we have organized a growing amount of internal and limited external playtesting for feature validation and feedback. Alan Wake 2, Remedy's most recent release, has also now recouped most of its development and marketing cost. Remedy released its first Alan Wake 2 DLC, Night Springs, in June. A second expansion is due later this year. Last year, in an interview with Video Games Chronicles, as always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles, Creative director Sam Lake said the Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes were going to involve a lot of work. He says, it's a significant undertaking in the sense that even if they are old games, just thinking about bringing them to modern standards and combining them into one, you can see that it's a big, big project. Upon being asked if he would be reprising his role as Max from the first game, Sam Lake laughed, no comment. That's going too far. As you know, Sam Lake does play the character model of Alex Casey, Detective Alex Casey in Alan Wake 2. So Sam Lake gets around even in his own games. All right. Let's blast through a couple real quick news stories here about confirmed video game release dates or delays or both. Until Dawn, the remaster, I don't remember what it actually is, but it doesn't matter. It's coming to PS5 and PC October 4th. That has been confirmed just before Halloween, October 4th Until Dawn. The Plucky Squire has confirmed its release date. That's coming out. The other thing is about Plucky Squire, which is kind of neat, is it's also coming out day one on PlayStation Plus Extra, which is super cool. That's coming out very soon, in less than a month, September 17th on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Like I said, day one for those on PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. That game looks absolutely lovely. I'm very curious about it. I hope it's good. That's coming out September 17th. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has officially been delayed until February. The game was originally planned to release later this year. It now has a new release date of February 11th, 2025. Warhorse Studios working on that game. That is the first person, medieval action RPG. You might have seen it at Summer Game Fest earlier this year. All right. We have two new stories surrounding user reviews. So the first one is that the PlayStation Store is going to be introducing user reviews in a thread entitled, "When did PlayStation start allowing written reviews?" An eagle-eyed PS5 owner noted on the PlayStation subreddit that the company was inviting user reviews for a select number of games. While fans have long been able to rate games from 0 to 5 stars, this is the first time that players have been invited to leave a written review. According to some of the respondents, PlayStation.com is emailing players and inviting them to share their thoughts on a handful of games, including Helldivers 2, Fortnite, Resident Evil 4, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. As some commenters have said, the success of user reviews does vary, with many pointing out how useful Valve's listings of how many hours a player has played thus far, and also how much they'd played at the time they left the review, helps with determining the validity of the user review. Right now, the feature seems to be limited to a handful of games. You have to have a digital version of the game to participate, and reviewers can be only be submitted via the PlayStation website. As some players point out, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, given it may be quite laborious to have to write out a full review using a controller. So, I'll tell you what I think in a moment, because the other news story, which I'm getting from GameDeveloper.com, is that Valve is launching a helpfulness system for Steam user reviews. Here's the news story. More changes have hit Steam, this time for its user reviews. After being spotted by players last week, Valve has implemented a helpfulness system that prioritizes informative reviews on a game store page. As Valve explains it, helpful reviews have typically been sorted by the number of user reviews designated as such. But that system's been easily exploited and made it so joke reviews can take center stage and go viral, which is subsequently less helpful. I'll explain more about like what that means in a moment. With new changes, one-word reviews or ones made of memes will be placed behind actual reviews. Even so, the developer acknowledged those humorous but unhelpful posts can be toggled back onto the store page proper through the new display drop-down menu. Valve has also said the new system doesn't impact how review scores are generated for each game. It is simply changing the order that reviews appear on each store page. This is a system in the works, and the studio said it will take quite a while to analyze new and current reviews to determine their helpfulness. It's unclear how this system will work when it comes to concentrated review bombing efforts, which inevitably involve harassment campaigns. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I am of two minds when it comes to user reviews. On one hand, I don't really trust people that are not experts in criticizing video games. I'm just not. I think the average person, whether they're a content creator or not, so I'm not trying to like talk up myself when I say this. I think the average person, whether they're a content creator or not, podcasters, streamer, make YouTube gaming videos, review, whatever. I think the average person, or someone who just picks off Madden off the shelf or downloads Dredge on their PC, whatever. I just don't think the average person has the media literacy, has the critical thinking, has the vocabulary, has the journalistic integrity, for lack of a better word, to produce a vast majority of user reviews that are useful compared to pros, for lack of a better word. But again, even like, what's a pro, right? Like, I'm not making any money doing this. Does that make me less valid? Does that make me more valid? Depends on who you ask, because a lot of people will say, I don't trust critics who write for Rolling Stone, or I don't trust critics who write for GameSpot. I don't trust the people that review stuff for Video Games Chronicles. I don't trust those people, whatever. And I'm not here to tell you whether you do or not, or whether you should or not. I'm just saying that, like, Joe Blow Gaming 420, is he going to be able to convey what makes Dredge a good or bad game the way that somebody who has been maybe professionally writing about games for X amount of time would be able to do so? That being said, I think there are people out there who, have valid things to say because they paid their money up front, for this game, and damn it, they're going to tell you if they like it or not. I'll just give you a very quick example. I'm on the Dredge Steam page right now. This is the most helpful review of Dredge in the past 30 days. Okay. Just hear me out. This review of Dredge was posted July 17th. At the time they reviewed it, they had 11 hours in the game. Okay. This person wrote about Dredge. If you want a game full of Lovecraftian horror, this probably isn't for you. If you want a cozy fishing game that is lovingly crafted and has subtle Lovecraftian elements scattered through its world, this game is definitely for you. 103 people left a response saying that they found this review helpful. Now, this is also a positive recommendation for they ended up giving it a thumbs up. Like, Steam is very easy. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's all there is. If we go to negative, this person had played the game for 4.3 hours and gave it a thumbs down. It is a significantly longer review that I'm not going to read. And I'm not reading it because I don't want to read a negative review of Dredge. It's just a very long review. Okay. But like, now you're going to have to sift through a lot. Like, if you don't know what Lovecraft is, you're going to have to sit through a bunch of reviews to get the context for what Lovecraft is to see if it applies to you in the context of Dredge. But also, helpfulness is such a vague thing, right? Like, the helpfulness system is so vague because it's like, okay, are you is it helpful because you agreed with the game? Or sorry, agreed with the reviewer? Is it helpful because it swayed you to buy the game or not buy the game? I think with the user reviews, it's very tricky. I think that's my long way of saying it's very, very tricky, right? I think about, people that swear up and down that Adam Sandler comedies are some of the best comedies out there, and I'm just picking, but bear with me. People that swear that like the Michael Bay Transformer movies are some of the best action movies out there. Like, how do we contextualize that into other films that exist that may or may not be similar, right? I think user reviews often miss the bigger picture of the world of gaming. When it comes to thoughtful critiques, it's almost like they just have hot takes of like, oh, Helldivers 2 is trash, or Helldivers 2 is the best game, or like, boy, Overwatch 2 sure is better than Concord, a game that they haven't actually played because Concord isn't out yet. Like, you can often hear people compare apples to oranges, like, irrelevantly in stuff like user reviews. That being said, I think user reviews are important because these are most often people that paid their hard-earned money to play that game. You can't take that away from anybody, right? You can't take that away from anybody. That being said, I think too often people discredit the folks that work at GameSpot or IGN or Video Games Chronicles for receiving free review copies of games and then providing a positive or higher than average review score compared to other people. It's like, oh, they're on the take. I can't believe. I'll give you an example. The amount of people that I see shitting on IGN for giving Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie, a 7 out of 10 is outrageous. It's out. Like, I've never in my time seen so many people in like the Instagram, and I know we're talking about dipshits commenting on the internet. I know that I'm already, diving headfirst into quicksand, but hear me out. The amount of people that are like, I can't believe you gave it a 7 out of 10. You hate the movie. Like, when has anyone ever gave 7 out of 10 to something that they hate? I gave Deadpool and Wolverine a 3 out of 5 because I use a 5-point scale because I encourage people to read more than just read the number. But I don't hate the movie. And I just don't understand, like, do we need just a thumbs up and thumbs down? Because that's one thing I'll say about the Steam system is, do you like it or do you not like it? Do you recommend it or do you not recommend it? People get into the weeds of like, oh, you gave it a 3, you gave it a 3.5, you gave it a 7. Like, the numbers almost start to abstract out too much, in my opinion. I would just like to see, and actually we talked about this last week with the Borderlands movie, say what you will about Rotten Tomatoes, but when I go to Rotten Tomatoes and I see that, 9% of all reviewers liked the Borderlands movie, for example, I have an idea. It's 10% for Borderlands. But the point is that 10% of all critics liked the Borderlands movie. That's enough for me to know that I don't think I want to watch the Borderlands movie. Now, for context, the audience review scores, the average Joe and Jane that went out there and saw Borderlands, 52% of the audience that reviewed the Borderlands movie said they liked it, which still gives the Borderlands movie a rotten score, both from a critical standpoint and a user standpoint. Now, that doesn't always even out. Some critics really hate a movie. Some users really like it. Some users really hate a movie. Some critics usually like it. It's all a mess, right? And I'm not saying that like including user reviews is going to make it better. I don't know if introducing a helpfulness system is going to make it better. The problem is that like you just have people who want to give hot takes on both sides of the aisle. People that just want to stick the knife into some sort of piece of art or media to say that they hate it or love it. And it's hard to get an interpretation one way or the other of where the truth is. My recommendation at the end of the day, my honest recommendation is to not discuss this stuff in bad faith. When you give your opinion on a game, discuss it as if you were talking to your friend about it. Right? Don't try to trick them into thinking the game's worse than it is or that it's better than it is. Like, if you were to have a discussion about this on the internet, and maybe this would make the internet a better place, like, discuss it as if you were talking to your friend about it. Like, your honest, unbiased as much as you can opinion. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And why don't you like it? And more importantly, like, how does it make you feel? Because it's one thing to say, well, I don't like, get back to politics. If you had somebody who was just criticizing Assassin's Creed Shadows because of the skin color of the protagonist, I would know right then and there to not even bother asking why it is they feel that way, because that person is not worth my time. But if I had to sift through a bunch of reviews of that on the PlayStation Store or Steam, at some point I would be like, I don't think I want to engage with this store. I don't want to engage with any of this, right? I'm just going to be turned off by this whole system. Now, maybe a helpfulness system that Steam plans on launching is going to make that easier to sift through that bullshit. But when you introduce user reviews, you introduce more bullshit into the world of criticism of art and media, not less. But at the end of the day, I think it's important. I think if you're going to, I also think you should have critic opinions on the game as well. Like, give people as much of an informed, opinion on the game or thing that they're about to watch right then and there, right? Like, I want to go to the PlayStation Store. I want to see what the Metacritic is for the game, right? I want to see all of that stuff right then and there. Make it as easy as possible for me to make an informed decision. Even if it's an informed decision based on my own bullshit biases, I'd rather that than like going into something completely blind. So at the end of the day, I think the user reviews are good. It does open a can of worms, but I think we're already there with, bad faith, hot takes of media and art in general. It's just if we can just trust people to be able to sift through that bullshit a little bit more appropriately in order to make the best choices, I think that's all we can really ask for. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the games that I've been playing. We're also going to talk about the rest of the year in gaming release dates. Stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the podcast, and thank you for hanging in there for our final break. I wanted to cover the games that are coming out later this year, starting with pretty much with next week. And then we'll talk about the games that I've been playing. Next week, we got Black Myth Wukong, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S. That's out August 20th. Concord, also out August 23rd. That's PS5 and PC. I played that beta. I think that game's okay, but not enough for me to actually want to play it. Or buy it, excuse me. Now, I need to confirm something because it shows up twice. When's that game actually coming out? Okay, so that needs to be updated. Okay. Visions of Mana. I played that Visions of Mana demo briefly. That is the, kind of open world action JRPG from Square Enix. PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, August 29th. There's a free demo of Visions of Mana out. If that is your thing, you can check that out. Vampire Survivors is finally making its way to PS systems, PS4 and PS5, August 29th. Go buy Vampire Survivors. It's a great game. And a game that I'm maybe not like super looking forward to, but a game that I will absolutely play when it comes out. Star Wars Outlaws, August 30th. That's PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. I will definitely, without a doubt, 100%, no worries. I will be playing Star Wars Outlaws when that comes out, and I will let you know how it is. Black Myth Wukong, my understanding is that that's also coming to Game Pass. So I'll probably mess around with Black Myth Wukong. The only thing is I won't have a lot of time to play it when it does come out for the podcast, but we'll see how that goes. And in terms of, September games, we got The Casting of Frank Stone. That is the Dead by Daylight spin-off single-player story game from the people that made Until Dawn and The Quarry. PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, September 3rd. Quidditch Champions. That game is also coming to PlayStation. PlayStation Plus Day 1. That's September 3rd. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S. That's September 9th. The Plucky Squire has a new date. That is going to be, or a confirmed date. That is September 17th. We already talked about that. PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch, September 17th. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, September 19th. God of War Ragnarok on PC, also September 19th. We also got the Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. That's the remastered edition of Lollipop Chainsaw. That is out September 5th. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, September 26th. As we kind of already talked about, Until Dawn, PC, PS5, October 4th. Silent Hill 2, PS5 and PC, October 8th. Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, that's the expansion pack. That's coming to Xbox and PC, October 8th. I would have assumed it would also be coming to PlayStation 5. That's probably inaccurate. It's probably wrong. It's probably coming to everything at the same time. But I was going to say, right off the top, October is a crazy, crazy month, right? Until Dawn, Silent Hill 2, Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, Metaphor Re-Fantasio, that's coming to PC, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, PS5, October 11th. You got Call of Duty Black Ops 6, October 25th. Dragon Age: The Veilguard, October 31st. I don't think this has been updated to include the Halloween game. I'm looking, if I'm just looking at this list, I want to play Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred. I want to play Metaphor. I want to play Dragon Age: Veilguard, and I want to play Black Ops 6. That's 4 games in October. I don't think I have enough time on this earth within the month of October to play all those games, but damn it, I'm going to try. We also got Assassin's Creed Shadows, November 15th, Microsoft Flight Simulator, November 19th, Slitterhead, PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, November 8th, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, PC, Xbox Series X and S, November 20th. I think Squirrel with a Gun, not to backtrack, but I think Squirrel with a Gun is coming out sometime in August. And Shadows of the Damned, I believe, is also coming out on Halloween. So there's a ton of games to get to. A huge amount of games coming out throughout this year. And that's not even confirming the release date of other games like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Well, let's talk about the games again. Let's talk about the games that I have been playing. So, as you know, Modern Warfare 3 came out to Game Pass a couple weeks ago. And I was mostly just playing the multiplayer. You know, they had that WWE event happening that was actually pretty good. It was so good it made me wish it was an AEW event, but whatever. You know, Rhea Ripley, Rey Mysterio, Cody Rhodes, The American Nightmare, all that stuff. Michael Cole saying, "Oh, that's a dead body," when you hit a military man with a steel chair after shooting him with an assault rifle. Good stuff. But I was like, you know what? It's been a while since I played one of the single player story modes in a Modern Warfare or any Call of Duty game for that matter. I was over at some family's house the other day and I saw them fire up Black Ops Cold War. And I was like, man, I really want to play a Call of Duty single player story. And let me explain something. I like big budget, single player story based games. They don't even always have to be open world games. They can be very linear experiences. Think something like an Uncharted or whatever. Dead Space, Resident Evil remake, whatever. Like I don't have to always be open world, but I like a big budget story based game, right? Mass Effect, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man. I don't love all of those games, but I like those types of games. I really like those types of games. And one of the things that I really like about the Call of Duty storylines is they take the big budget single player story, they squish it down to about a 6-hour experience, more or less. They pack it often full of some of the most bombastic, ridiculous storylines with some of the most over the top moments in gaming. And they just let you get on a ridiculous roller coaster and have a good time. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like Modern Warfare 3 somehow, or Call of Duty in general, somehow rivals some of the greatest story-based gaming, games out there. I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is that when I get on a Call of Duty roller coaster, I keep my arms and legs inside at all times because it is a dumb ride, and I've enjoyed a lot of those games off the top of my head. When I think about recent or since the PS4, if we just talk about the PS4 and onward, I have really enjoyed Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I've really enjoyed Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I have really enjoyed Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the remaster. I don't really care for the World War II games. I don't want to shoot World War II guns suck at shooting. I want to shoot modern or futuristic guns. I don't want to shoot old guns unless it's Red Dead Redemption 2. That's it. But listen, Kevin Spacey was probably a bad guy in real life. Kevin Spacey probably a terrible human being in real life. He plays a really good bad guy in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, for example, right? The guy from Game of Thrones, pretty good bad guy in Black Ops, in Infinite Warfare. They don't always have like big celebrities, but the point is that like, as far as just like, your Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer-esque explosive action movie, maybe turn your brain off, don't think too hard about it, just watch big gruff military men blow shit up. Call of Duty makes for pretty good story modes when it comes to that stuff. Now, often the thing that works in their favor is the runtime. I think having a 5 to 6 hour story, I think allows them to, cut a lot of the bullshit out and instead focus on a very lean experience, right? Story mode, bad guy. Here's the bad guy. We got to get this guy. Okay. First mission, we see what the bad guy is all about because he does a bunch of horrible shit. Now we're going to spend the next, maybe third of the story just, globe-trotting around the world, blowing shit up until we find him. Okay, now we found him. Oh, but now he's got the upper hand. Oh, now we got it. Whatever. Like, it's very quick. It's very, very quick. And it also means that, like, they can also provide just enough of a variety to keep things exciting. So often in Call of Duty, you might switch back and forth between a couple of different characters. There might be a couple of levels where, this level is a stealth level, where there's no combat, or you can only use silenced weapons. This level is a sniping mission because we're going to keep our distance while we're supporting other people moving into, to attack or whatever. Oh, this level is a military, like a military vehicle level. There's a level in Modern Warfare 3 where you are purely piloting like some sort of like strike drone, like, aircraft, and you're just bombing a base while supporting your, team on the ground. Or maybe you're driving a vehicle, or you're piloting a helicopter, or you're swimming, but like it's usually like maybe one of those types of, missions per game. It's not like, oh, here's a huge, for the next 3 levels, we're going to be underwater or we're going to be trapped in ice. Like they usually mix it up just enough to keep things interesting. And then when you're not doing that, you're running forward through these facilities and these levels, shooting people, blowing up facilities. You're, breaching with like, C4 charges into rooms and all the military stuff that you can handle, right? And it's fun. Like I'm just like, I really enjoy how dumb and ridiculous and just how potent those stories and those gameplay experiences tend to be. From just like wow, I'm going to watch a lot of crazy shit over the next 5 to 6 hours and it's going to be a good time. Modern Warfare 3 tries to do that. So I played the Modern Warfare 3 story. I played through all of it. It did not take me very long, as it doesn't take me very long with most of those Call of Duty games. And Modern Warfare 3 sure tries to do a lot of the stuff that I just mentioned. It just doesn't succeed in doing almost any of it. It's not like terrible, but it's a pretty big letdown from past Call of Duty games in my experience. Even going as far back as like Modern Warfare, 1 and 2 on the PS3 and Black Ops, 1 and 2. Usually like Call of Duty has a pretty decent identity when it comes to what the single player is trying to do. Like Infinite Warfare, you're in space, like you're going to fucking different planets and doing all sorts of crazy shit in Infinite Warfare. And then they just like never do that stuff again in another Call of Duty game because they came up with a bunch of other ideas. And you're like, that's crazy. For example, right? In Modern Warfare 3, it really feels like they had half the budget and half the time to get this done. Let me explain. Modern Warfare 3 does try to change up a lot of the formula that you can expect from Call of Duty, but it often does so in such a cost-cutting manner. Let me explain. You may have played the Call of Duty Battle Royale mode Warzone. And if you know Warzone, you know that Warzone is a 100-player multiplayer match that exists in this large open world where you're running around collecting items and weapons and attachments and equipment and shooting people at the same time in a multiplayer match. Modern Warfare 3 attempts to break up some of the story of Modern Warfare 3 is very much set in a single country and region for the most part compared to other Call of Duty games where you're globetrotting around the world. And in doing so, they've taken a lot of the pre-existing levels that existed in the, Battle Royale mode and cut it into little pieces where you have these really small open world environments to run around in, completing objectives and missions as part of some of the Modern Warfare 3 levels. Now, some of the other levels in Modern Warfare 3 are very much that scripted single player, like linear. We're going to move through this level from A to B the way you would in like an Uncharted or Guardians of the Galaxy or Mass Effect or whatever. Just we're going to get from A to B. Here's the scenario. Here's the cutscene that led us here. We're going to go through this environment, do our thing. And then the level will end or whatever, right? The way other single player story games tend to be. But those moments are so few and far between because it seems like so much of the game is taken up by this like generic open world filler that is clearly just cut content from a pre-existing mode that Call of Duty already has. So we end up in the scenario where the story feels pretty muted because it doesn't feel like you're saving the world. It seems like you're saving a country, which is fine. There's nothing wrong necessarily with that idea. It's just that by the time the story really feels like it's getting off the ground, the game is over. Like the game has one of the most anticlimactic endings I have ever seen in a video game. Ever. In any other, and this is maybe where I might criticize like user reviews and stuff like that. Just from like a media literacy standpoint. In any other story, where Modern Warfare 3 ends, in any other story, that's like where the heroes are at their lowest point and the rising action has probably met its peak of like, okay, this is where the stakes are. This is where, the rebels or the heroes got to band together and get this shit done, right? Like this is where You know, either it's at the tip of the rising action because they realized where the bad guy truly lies, how much power the bad guy has, the villain has, or it's like, okay, we're going to regroup, we're going to reband, we're going to, take back whatever's ours, we're going to save the day. We just need to figure out how to do it because we're at our lowest. But instead, Call of Duty ends with the heroes at their lowest point in the story, and it just ends. And it's just like, wait, so you're having me play through what feels like a lot of recycled content in a story that feels pretty muted from scale and scope compared to other Call of Duty games, and then you don't even have the decency to end on a proper note. Unfortunately, Modern Warfare 3 story, it's not the worst. I didn't hate my time playing it. I don't even regret. That's not even a scenario where I regret playing it, because, running around in an open world Call of Duty setting without having to fight online players is an interesting idea, even if it maybe doesn't actually hold up as long as they would like it to, right? Because it's not like you get full access to the battle royale world of Warzone. It's like small sections of oh, you're in a construction site, you're in this container, storage container facility, you're in this military base. You're not you get to explore the whole world. So one of the things that it introduces in those levels, they call them weapons free. And the idea is that you can find different, treasure chests in the environment, and it'll come with different guns and different equipment. And they give you all this space to run around and explore this larger environment in, and all these different treasure chests that you can open to find different weapons. But at the end of the day, those missions are still incredibly straightforward. Go into this building, steal this document, go to this other area, shoot this guy, go into this, find this other base, blow up this helicopter, plant C4, do whatever. It's all very, very basic stuff. So when I'm looking at all the different open, areas of a level being oh, I could go open up that treasure chest, but I already have an assault rifle and I already have a sniper rifle. I don't need a different gun. I don't need a shotgun that does fire damage. I don't need any of this stuff because it's already pretty basic as it is. The thing that the open world does allow you to do is be stealthy and avoid combat and conflict if you want to. But Call of Duty is a game all about conflict. It's all about shooting. Yeah, maybe you have to be stealthy in one mission. Maybe you have to be a sniper in one. Maybe you have to be a helicopter pilot in another. But at the end of the day, it's you were shooting. When you enter the Call of Duty, it's to shoot a motherfucker. Okay, so I just found that Modern Warfare 3 is a pretty muted. I think that's the way I would describe it. It's pretty it's pretty. It doesn't. It's all bark, no bite. And it's a pretty muted experience. That being said, I think graphically it looked all right. I enjoyed messing around with the open world to some extent, but you don't get the full open world to run around in compared to something like Warzone. And when you do get back to the traditional Call of Duty experience, it still feels lacking in a lot of ways, both from a level design standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint. And I'm not here to tell you that Modern Warfare is fucking Shakespeare. It never is, and it never will be. But there are still decent, blockbuster action movie stories that they have told that are significantly better than it is in Modern Warfare 3. So I gotta say, Modern Warfare 3 storyline, bit of a disappointment, a bit of a bummer, but I didn't hate my time with it in the end either. I'd give that the single player story of Modern Warfare. I give it a 3 out of 5 if I'm being honest. Maybe 3 out of 5 is even a little generous, but I'll stick with a 3 out of 5 stars for the Modern Warfare 3 single player story. Big hope that they turn it around with Black Ops 6. I know in Black Ops 6 they were talking about these very bombastic and very lush and rich sort of single player story missions, but they still offer you the choice of do you want to go in guns blazing? Do you want to be stealthy? Do you want to make these choices and all that stuff? So I'm hoping that the openness of the Black Ops 6 story missions does not, take away from the thrill ride that the Call of Duty stories so often are. So fingers crossed that Black Ops 6 is good, even if it maybe narrows the scope of what Call of Duty story levels can be to instead offer a more consistent experience. Still picking at South Park, The Stick of Truth. I'm still playing Stick of Truth. I'm maybe 2 hours in. I gotta like just buckle down and get through it. My understanding is that like South Park Stick of Truth is not a long game. How long to beat Stick of Truth? Oh, okay. If you just focus on the main story, you can maybe get through South Park Stick of Truth in about 12 hours. If you're doing extra stuff, maybe it'll take you, 11 to 24 hours, depending on, how leisurely you play through that game. But the point is that, I'm going to keep at it. I've actually really enjoyed the combat. At first I was like, man, I don't know if I love this timing combat. It seems so tricky to master the timing and all this stuff, but I've been enjoying it. I gotta say, I'll say it again. I would not consider myself a South Park fan. I would not consider myself a South Park fan. It's not that I don't like South Park. It's just that I don't dislike South Park. Like South Park's fine. I can take it or leave it. That being said, I find the story to be okay so far. I think some of the moments have been funny. I'm not like dying laughing, but I think some of it's pretty funny so far. I really enjoy the gameplay. I just really enjoy like a light RPG. Like this is not Baldur's Gate. This is not Dragon Age. This is not, any of those like, Pathfinder. This is not some like in-depth crazy RPG. This isn't even like an serious, in-depth RPG the way something like Fallout is. But I enjoy a light, breezy RPG of like, I'm going to make some choices with what character I play as. I'm going to swap out some inventory equipment. I'm going to do some side quests. I'm going to do turn-based combat. That's fine. It's pretty light. It's pretty breezy, and I hope to get through it because I have been really enjoying it for the most part. I just need to kind of stick with it. Unfortunately, another game came my way that really threw a wrench into my life. Not just my gaming, but my life in general. But I'm gonna keep at Stick of Truth. It shouldn't take me too long. Maybe I can get it done before the end of August. We shall see. But the game that's kind of caught me by surprise is Stardew Valley, a game that I've had sitting in my Steam library for years. I couldn't even tell you how long I've had Stardew Valley in my Steam library. And when I fired up Stardew Valley for the first time, I maybe played it for about 20, 30 minutes, and then I dropped it, and I haven't gone back to it in some time. But there was a moment last week where I thought to myself, you know what? It'd be fun if I got into one of those, kind of cozy farming lifestyle RPG type games, right? And when I talk about farming lifestyle RPG games, I'm talking about games like Animal Crossing. I'm talking about games like Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons. I'm talking about games like My Time at Portia or My Time at Sandrock. I'm talking about games like Disney Dreamlight Valley. And when I say that, I mean there are a lot of games out there that are a lot like Stardew Valley already. Some of those games are games that I've already played. I beat My Time at Portia. I played a lot of My Time at Sandrock before it left early access. I put a decent amount of time into Disney Dreamlight Valley, so I know what these games are. I know what they tend to be. But I was surprised at how quickly Stardew Valley sunk its teeth into me. The premise of Stardew Valley is your grandpa leaves, you create a character, very basic character creator. Your grandpa leaves you a farm in just outside of this place called Pelican Town, and you move in to the farm to start your life as a farmer. Now, I just want to back up for a moment. When I talk about like farmer and farming and all this stuff, I'm not necessarily exclusively talking about managing animals and crops and planting and stuff like that. So I'm going to probably use farming as a shorthand going forward. But in Stardew Valley, you don't just have the option of managing crops and managing animals. In Stardew Valley, you can also forage. So you can pick wild crops out in the world. You can mine and fight monsters. There's pretty basic combat, but you can go into the caves around town and fight monsters and mine for copper and coal and stone and all that stuff. And you can fish. And then with those resources that you've gathered from foraging or chopping down trees or mining, you can do stuff with it, right? So, for example, in Stardew Valley, when I started my new game, it allows you to choose a different, choose a location where you're going to be, your home's going to be based in and around town. And I chose a place that was kind of near like lakes and rivers and streams. And one of the perks that I got for choosing that location is I started the game with a pre-made fish smoker. So anytime I caught fish, I could spend a little bit of time smoking the fish, and if I ate the fish, it would give me better perks and bonuses, and I could also sell the fish for more money than if I sold raw fish. So when I talk about farming, I'm talking about planting crops and managing animals and mining and fishing and fighting monsters, and also helping the townspeople, because there's a huge amount of side quests in terms of help the mayor with this, and this person lost their axe, and this person lost their pants, and this person needs cauliflower, and all this stuff. There's a whole bunch of side stuff you can do. But let's talk about the gameplay, kind of the gameplay loop. So it is a game that tries to simulate life to some extent. So the way it works is every morning you wake up. Typically your character wakes up around 6:30 a.m. and everything in the game is on some sort of timer. So you wake up at 6:30, but the general store in the village doesn't open until 9 a.m. The blacksmith is only open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The carpentry store, the fisherman who runs the bait shop and all that stuff, they all operate on their own different schedules and times and stuff like that. When you start the game, you have full health and you also have full energy. If you swing your axe, or you go fishing, or you do any sort of strenuous activity, it will use up some of your energy, right? So it's a scenario where you wake up in the morning, you have a certain amount of energy that you can spend throughout the day mining or fishing or cutting down trees or whatever, right? Now, not every activity in the game uses energy. So wandering around town and exploring doesn't actually use energy, but it will spend time, right? So you could be out wandering around from the moment the sun goes up to the moment the sun goes down, and you want to use energy, but you may have missed the opportunity to go to the store or talk to somebody or do whatever, right? That's kind of the simulation of the town going through its motions, right? But you can always regain energy if you want. So if I catch a fish, if I spend a bunch of energy fishing, I can eat the fish to regain energy so I can go back to doing whatever activities that I want. So you're never quite, at least early on, maybe, but it doesn't take long before you can always regain energy to continue participating in whatever activities you want to, right? It's not like, well, I burned all my energy cutting down all these trees and now I'm tired and I have to go to bed at 2 p.m. or something. You can usually get around it. You can also cook food and buy food and even eat raw food to some extent, like raw fish or berries or whatever, to regain some energy so you can keep doing what you're doing, right? So think of this loop as you wake up in the morning, you have a certain amount of time before you have to go to bed each day, and you have a certain amount of energy that you spend on whatever you want to do. You can always regain the energy if you want, but you can't regain enough energy to stay up for 24 hours. It's a scenario where I think the game will force you to go to sleep or you pass out by 2 a.m. So consistently, you're always up at 6:30 to do whatever it is you want to do, and you're always in bed maximum by 2 a.m. Right? I haven't found any issues where I passed out and then I slept in or anything like, or had a penalty for sleeping in. Like it's always, you wake up at 6:30 and you have to be in bed by 2 a.m. and so on and so forth. Right. And that loop makes for a real addicting grind, for lack of a better word. And I say grind in a positive way of like, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to spend all day fishing, right? And which I've done that. I've spent all day fishing, right? And by the time the day is done, I'm kind of sorting through the fish that I got. Oh, this is a rare fish. This is a small fish. This is a big fish. This is a whatever fish. This fish gives me, if I eat it, it's going to give me 65 energy and 114 regain of health or whatever. And you decide I'm actually going to smoke a bunch of fish and I'm going to keep this fish in my inventory because I'm going to use it for when I go mining in the caves and the dungeons. And this other fish I'm going to sell or whatever the case may be. But as you participate in these activities, you're also leveling up in your proficiency. So I'm like level 9 out of 10 in fishing. And I think once I get to level 10, I'm going to earn some other perk and bonus. One of the perks that I've earned by spending so much time fishing is my fish now sell for 25% more than they did before. So even if you're in a scenario where you're like, you know, trying to live off the land or you're trying to just make as much money as possible, the more you participate in, you know, cutting down wood or mining, the better you're going to get. Now, there is always the carrot on the stick of, oh, if I have 7,000, you know, dollars, I can buy a better fishing rod and that allows me to do this and this and this. Like they're constantly, you know, having you invest, you know, your money back into the tools that you need to, you know, I've come across like trees in the world that my axe isn't strong enough to cut. So I'm like, okay, well, once I figure out how to get a better axe, I can come back here and I'll get, you know, better wood that I can use in higher grade crafting materials and all of that stuff, right? It's very much that sort of carrot on the stick. But I think the beautiful thing is that like, it's so easygoing and it's so open that like I've ignored most of the story and most of the quests in the game so far. And I've just been doing my own thing, mostly focused on mining and fishing so far. Those are the two things I've enjoyed the most. I don't know how much of crops I'm going to be planting, but I do like, you know, building machines. So like I built a bunch of furnaces to smelt ore so I can turn my copper ore into copper bars, so on and so forth. Right. But there have been story missions around like, hey, you moved into the new town and the mayor's asking you to clean up the rundown community center if you want to. And the nice thing is that even though I've been ignoring all those story missions and I've gone, you know, days and days and days and days into the game now, you know, I can still go back to those stories. Like no one's ever punished me for ignoring anything. Like nothing seems to be time sensitive. The only thing that's time sensitive are the seasons. So you start the game, I think in the summer, no, spring or summer. I think I'm still in spring. I think you start the game in spring, but you go through summer and winter and fall and all that stuff and the weather changes and all that stuff. And the only thing that seems to really change from what I've seen so far is crops. So they tell you, hey, you can only plant this crop in the summer. You can only plant this crop in the spring, so on and so forth. You can also become friends with everybody in town. Everybody in town has their own likes and dislikes. Some people are single. Some people are married. You can also, you know, you can also chat with the other friends and family of the townspeople. So like, oh, this lady has kids and this guy has a dog or the cat or whatever. I have a cat now that lives at my farm and I feed it water and I pet it and its name is Watcha. It was there's like a random generated button and I just hit it and it came up with Watcha. And I thought it was just funny to have a cat and you can just go up to that cat and be like, what you doing? And I thought that was funny and cute. Anyways. And maybe I can earn relationship points with the cat by feeding it and giving it water and petting it. But I haven't made too much progress with the cat because every time I wake up, I'm like, I got to make this money. I'm like, screw you, cat. I'm going to go make millions of dollars mining for ore. And then I leave and then I come back and I pass out in front of my house at 2 a.m. because I didn't have enough time to get from the caves where I was mining back home and all this stuff. And very simple, you know, art style and all that stuff. There's no voice acting or anything like that, but it's just a very lovely, chill game But the thing that isn't so chill is just how quickly you get into like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. Oh, I've been putting this off. I want to engage in this activity. Oh, I want to go explore this town. Or, oh, I came across a broken bridge and the broken bridge said, if you have 300 pieces of wood, you can build the bridge. And I just happened to go do that. And now I can explore this whole other thing. And now I'm fighting sea urchins in all this other part of town. Because it is an open world in the sense that you can run around and explore stuff. But some of that stuff, some of the exploration is tied to the tools and materials that you have, right? So it's not just, oh, I came across the lady that will sell me a cow if I build a barn, but it's like I came across a bridge that requires 300 wood. If I go cut down enough trees to rebuild the bridge, I have a new area of the town to explore. It's so much fun. It's like the perfect thing for, I'm just want to chill out and I don't want to think too hard and I want to like watch TV while I'm doing this or whatever. Like it's a perfect one of those types of games. And I was up until like 1 or 2 last night playing it. Cause I was just like, I'd go to bed being like, okay, in the game, I'd go to bed in the game and be like, okay, that's it. And then you wake up and you're like, okay, one more day of doing whatever. Right. And that's why like I was able to get through Modern Warfare 3 because that's a 6-hour thing. Like I've probably had shorter play sessions of Stardew Valley than the entire runtime of Modern Warfare 3 from where I've been at with the game so far. So that's why I haven't gotten around to playing so much Stick of Truth, because I've been playing so much Stardew Valley. If you're interested, Stardew Valley seems like the best one of those games out there. But if you're looking for some other farming lifestyle RPG, My Time at Portia, My Time at Sandrock, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, I just think Stardew Valley is probably the best one out there so far. But it is a 2D game instead of a 3D game the way that some of the other games are. So if you are looking for something a little more graphically intensive, you could always look to those games as well. I think My Time at Portia is pretty good. I think My Time at Sandrock is also pretty good as well. Just maybe not quite as good as Stardew Valley from what I've seen so far. So that's where I'm at with gaming. Hopefully I can kind of clear up some of these other games like Stick of Truth, especially before other games start coming out this month, especially. Like I really want to get to, and I will be playing Star Wars Outlaws when that comes out. I'm going to get the Ubisoft subscription so I can play that when it comes out, so I can tell you what I think, because I'm very curious about that game, even if I maybe grown a little cold on it since they've been showing more and more of the game. Previews for that game came out about a week or 2 ago. Previews for it seemed pretty positive from the critics that got a chance to play it, but I kind of need to play it myself to see if I'm going to like it or not. But that's going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. That's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of that good stuff in one convenient location. We're going to make some more videos. I haven't had a chance to make some more videos. Last video I made was the video about the Borderlands movie bombing. And the fact that you shouldn't have been surprised that the Borderlands movie was bad, considering that most of the Borderlands source material, storytelling, characters, dialogue, plots, all that stuff have been pretty bad. Some people really wanted to disagree with me on the idea that Handsome Jack is a bad character, to which I say Handsome Jack is one of the worst characters, but I like shooting guns to get better guns. So I like a lot of Borderlands, even if there's a lot of Borderlands to not like. But anyways, that's going to do it for the podcast. It's a long one. I've been GnittWitt, and we'll see you all next week. Happy gaming. Enjoy. Take it easy.